as we wrap up this part of our annual conference. So my task is to introduce our guest speaker and also to say something about our featured speaker. And I say something because after I have introduced our guest speaker and he has spoken, we will have a new way of introducing our president, and I would simply say that a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. It is often put in different ways. I am particularly pleased and honored to introduce our guest speaker and welcome to Barbados, I'm sure it's not his first time, Senator Clement Marcellin Jr., a young man who, from his curriculum vitae, has accomplished significant milestones in his tender years. And I can afford to say tender years, given the age difference between us. Let me start by saying that our guest speaker in 2014 earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Technical Management from DeVry University, and 2 years later, a Master of Science degree in Project Management from Keller Graduate School. And while he was doing that, he also had time to make sure that there's succession, and he has a beautiful daughter. According to referrals that I saw and references to him, while he is still under 40, and if you recall in the history of Barbadian politics, there was once a group called the Under 40s, he has been very much a community person, making and giving significantly to his community and to his country. He has had the opportunity to contribute in several sectors, in the public sector, in the private sector, and in what I call the third or cooperative sector, a sector that is very dear to my heart, if you know me. At one time, he served as a government official as District Environmental Health Officer in the area of Portsmouth Health Districts, and acted as Senior Environmental Health Officer. He also would have been employed as Business Development Officer at Dominica Cooperative Societies League Limited. And all of those things come together to make him an experienced professional with a demonstrated history of working in the environmental services industry, the credit union movement, and as such has demonstrated his competence in environmental compliance, technology management, governance, project risk analysis, and environmental impact assessment. Now, if you think of the role of a minister, and more importantly, a prime minister, these are skills that would certainly enhance his capacity to function in the very important office. I would have equated, when I did my research, Senator Marcellin with the David and Goliath story. And I did that because if you have checked his history, he has taken on the Prime Minister of Dominica, Mr. Roosevelt Skerritt. But I just assured him that there seems to be some magic in this auditorium. On the last occasion that we invited one of our regional colleagues, he was the then leader of the opposition in Grenada. He is now Prime Minister of Grenada. Having served as an employee of the credit union movement, Senator Marcellin currently serves as a director of the credit union and the NCCO, the National Cooperative Credit Union Organization. And I can tell you that, again, if you follow credit unions, Dominica has one of the highest penetration rates of credit unions in the world, and it still continues to do so. So there's much that I am pleased to hear. He's not only a credit unionist, an environmentalist, project manager, but he also gives back in several ways, and he's currently director of the Dominica Cricket Association. And I was happy that your visit coincided with cricket in Barbados last night, and you did say that you were able to see some of that. In your community, you've been recognized as a man who at heart is honest, hardworking, and disciplined. As they describe you, a roots man, always on the block with the guys, discussing day-to-day events and playing dominoes. This is one comment. In essence, you have used your many talents, and I believe you may be an entrepreneur as well. So you see, we have a multi-talented, a person who is able to multitask and therefore is exposed to a number of the critical issues and areas that would impact on his ability to become a leader of his country. I think you've heard enough from me, and before I invite Senator Marcellin to address you, I just want to remind you that on completion of his address, we will move directly into the presentation on our President, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. And I will tell you why we have chosen to do this. For many of us, Dr. Yearwood is a relatively new individual in terms of not only his involvement with the Democratic Labour Party, but he's lived outside of Barbados for some time. And some people have sought to craft a view or perspective or a persona that does not capture the essence of who Dr. Yearwood is, and it does not capture the essence of something that I consider significant, the vision and the realization of the vision of this Democratic Labour Party. When you see that video, you will understand what our forefathers, our founding fathers, what our first Prime Minister in his vision for Barbados, especially Barbadians of limited means, what the successes have been. And I think that Dr. Yearwood epitomizes what this party stands for in terms of pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, committing ourselves to excellence, and using education as a tool for mobilization. So on that note, I now invite our guest, Senator Marcellin, to address us, and then we will hear from our president. Thank you very much.
A good man down, always keep a smile when they want me to frown. Keep the vibes and I stood my ground. They will never ever take my crown. Oh, Jah bless, I say no man curse. Things getting better when they thought it would be worse. Here comes the officers asking for a search. They found no weapon, just only a draw first. But I'm so solid as a rock, they just can't stop me now. Even when they set their traps, they just can't stop me now. People will say this and that, they just can't stop me now.
Good afternoon to all. If for any reason you see me realize that I'm kind of under the weather, it's just because last night I really wanted to be here, but I wanted to see one of my favorite batsmen bat, and he got dropped on 4, and he got out playing the same shot and being caught in the same area. So Shea Hope, I'm here looking at you, and I just hope that and tomorrow you can do your best. To the President of the Democratic Labour Party, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, the executive, the council members, the invited guests, the friends and well-wishers of the Democratic Party, a warm and pleasant good afternoon. And to each and every one of you, I want to say that Barbados still has hope, there is still life, and things can go and be smoothly. I also bring you greetings from the political leader of the United Workers' Party and the opposition leader of Dominica, Honorable Lennox Linton, and to my party executive, which is led under the presidency of Mr. Isaac Baptist, and the members of the parliamentary group, particularly our founder and past Prime Minister, Honorable Shenfield James, or Edison Shenfield James. And also, I just want to pause for a brief moment and take a nice, deep, fresh Dominican breath and say, I also bring warm greetings from the nature isle of the Caribbean, the place with the best air, the best water, and the best people, and to say thank you for having me. I am humbled to be considered to participate in this convention, and for the formation of a party from 1955, in true Bajan parlance, 67 years and 67 days is a very long time to be living and still breathing, and look at where we are today. something that was conceived years ago, and I just want to commend you all for holding strong to this party. Last evening, I said to one of the members, based on my frequent visit, that I'm still waiting to be considered an honorary Bajan. But it's always good to be here. The food is good. I had some sauce and pudding. And yeah, I know that I had some sauce and pudding, and it would be remiss of me to not really say that it's always good to be here. Records reflect that the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica and Barbados have in the past celebrated close-knit relationships. And I'm sure the friendships between the islands will continue to grow from strength to strength, and even more critically from generations to generations. So many times we see good initiatives go begging because there's a change in the guard and there's a generational gap. But we want to see that strong unity continue between the islands of Dominica and Barbados. In fact, there are many Dominicans who reside in Barbados, and there are many Bajans who reside in Dominica. We can boast of trade, we can boast of non-formal and service-based sector interrelationships. However, what stands in mind when it comes to Barbados, for me, is the efforts that were expended at coming to our rescue in 2017 when we were devastated by Hurricane Maria. I could clearly recall that the Defense Force played a very important role. The initiatives that were placed into coming towards our rescue, and especially and very critically for us, is that the party in power was the Democratic Labour Party. And although it's a few years later, but I really want to stop again and thank you for your unwavering support. Thank you for your help, even in time of need, that we know we have a true friend some miles away, but they are still close at heart. They still have us close at heart. And that is very important, considering that we're separated by waters, but they are inextricable factors which linked us, and we can always be grateful for that. Over the past few weeks, I asked myself, after receiving that invitation to speak at your general conference, what is it that I'm going to say to address these lovely people? What is it that I'm going to say? What impression am I going to leave on the minds of the people? And what is it that really will move you as the people of the Democratic Labour Party into getting that being re-energized and moving forward and standing up for country? And in my effort to do so, I quickly ran onto some online publications and in local newspaper and trying to tune in onto the online radio to get a real sense of what is happening. And quickly I became concerned. I'm saying, but what is really happening to Barbados? And I became alarmed to see that the government is grappling and struggling and having immense difficulty in effectively managing the ongoing crisis at all fronts. And there's that saying back home that some people appear that they can't chew gum and walk. You need to be able to juggle as many different areas, because you may just serve one efficiently and abandon the other, which is also critical. So I was taken aback, and I said, you know, we need to address that. So I want to take some time and really point out some of the few things that I think should be done. And I was surprised by the reports of overwhelming spiral into chaos. And as the one commentator said, and I quote, "The country is sailing like a rudderless ship in treacherous water, too difficult for the captain to navigate, and with a helpless and hopeless crew, unable and incapable to make a valuable contribution in the effort." End of quote. And I asked myself, what is really happening to Barbados? And I ask you today to pause for a moment and ask yourself that question: what is really happening to Barbados? And as I spoke to some of my friends and colleagues who, in my mind, are some of the most patriotic Bajans that you could ever encounter, and I was taken aback by the stories that painted ill omens and in the state of affairs for Barbados. They spoke of feeling of betrayal, buyer's remorse. It was clear as day that Bajans are under considerable pressure. And I want to understand, I want you to understand, brothers and sisters, the situation that your country faces should not only be looked in the partisan lens. It should not only be looked at or the concern of faithful party supporters, but every right-thinking Bajan should stop and take check of what is happening today. And it's also my interest as well. And every Caribbean person's interest. Because guess what? We are all in this together. And the quicker we come to the realization that despite of the divide, that we are fighting for one thing, one commonality, which is the betterment of our nation, our region, and our world. The quicker that we understand this, we will get to the realization that we can do it together. Not because I like fish and you like pork that we can sit on the same table and have dinner and laugh. And so too, not because you are blue or somebody is red, that my different view would make you my enemy. And I want to implore of us here today, let us look at the greater picture at every instant. Let us look at the greater good. But let me tell you something. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong when our leaders are interested in plastering their faces on international magazines, but in your local newspaper, an elderly woman is gunned down. Something is wrong. Something is wrong when gun violence continue to surge and our national insurance schemes are on the verge of collapse. Something is wrong. Let me also tell you, something is still wrong when our leaders are more invested in delivering eloquent speeches on the global stage instead of creating new industries to alleviate the plight of suffering people. And something is still wrong, albeit at a period where there is unemployment. The cost of living is at the all-time high, and it is unbearably high as well. Strangling ordinary citizens, something is wrong. And let me reaffirm that something is still wrong. When leaders are more interested in posing with celebrity singers for public relation gimmicks instead of empowering the citizens who have brilliant ideas to get us out of the rut that we're in, something is wrong. And I lament that something is still dreadfully wrong when democracy is under threat and parliamentarians are attempting to package unaccountability as a new and accepted norm. Something's definitely wrong. And let me tell you, brothers and sisters, when something is wrong, we ought to fix it. And that is why the Democratic Labour Party must move. We must move assiduously, consciously, and progressively. Bajans are turning day and day to look for a safe haven because the arms that were opened up wide as caring arms are now crushing them. They no longer care. You can't idly stand by and watch your people, our people, my people, suffer and call for new opportunities. And that serious call is ringing across the nation. No more gimmicks, no more tricks. People have come to recognize that they are being taken for a ride. People are fed up and have come to recognize that the government which they have elected needs to develop the knack of finding the right solutions to their problems. Instead of sweet-talking the masses with their fancy speeches filled with grandiose. I want to tell them that talk is cheap and you want no more talk. You can't carry talk to the supermarket. I have never seen you cash out talk at Price Low or at Costless or at Popular. I've never seen that been done. So talk is really cheap and you don't want more talk. We have to admit as well, and that's where the hard part comes, that the Democratic Labour Party had been rejected on 2 election cycles. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. The people wanted change, their right to advocate for change in the quest for the betterment of their lives. And woe unto those who did them that injustice. When ordinary people come together and ask for something, great things can be done. Likewise, they deserve the great rewards. And make no mistake, the other side wanted the job, and they got the job. But seemingly, they are unable to do the job. Across our Caribbean, we saw what was presented for the leader, and a lot of our people were hopeful. But there's one cardinal sin, which is offering false hope. You should never do that as the Democratic Labour Party. You heard, give me the vote and watch me. And now we are watching, and we are still watching, and we still haven't seen anything yet. My brothers and sisters, what do we call this? We call this deception. They deceived the people to sway the party support away from the Democratic Labour Party. Now let me tell you, as a proud Dominican, I'm always guided by the mandate through my national anthem. Do the right, be firm, and be fair. And in all my deliberations, I am guided by this. Now, it's time for you, the Democratic Labour Party, to put your house in order. The people of Barbados, will have to depend on the renewed and improved version of the Democratic Labour Party to steer the ship safely back into the safe harbor. I say it's time for the Democratic Labour Party to understand that sooner than you think, you will be called to duty to address the current challenges that are being faced by your mighty nation. I say it again. It is time to put your house in order, my brothers and sisters. You must be ready to be the next government by the way of consulting with the electorate in earnest, developing transformational policies, and effectively communicating these ideas to the people. You must be willing to stimulate thinking through constant engagement with your people so they can understand the direction that you're taking as an institution. And that is so critical to ensure that you are aligned to your overall objective, which is serving the people. The party must not be afraid to venture out of these lovely walls. This structure is remarkable, but this structure is only as remarkable as it is when people are in there. You consider at this time, your people, our people need to know that the Democratic Labour Party is the vanguard ready to put people first and put the idea of self under subjection. They are ready to reach out to the people, to let them know that you are there and you are here and you care for them. That is what we have to do. And the responsibility does not lie solely on the leader. It lies from the lowest level of your organization. Now, another stern warning to you, because I may be there and you expect me to say all the nice things, but it would be doing a disservice to you and myself if I don't tell you. Take a positive message and words of encouragement and reassurance, because the burdens on the back of the people are too heavy for them to bear. Do not go to the doors with partisan slander and political babble. You must represent a new style of representation, and that is what you should offer. You need to be cognizant that the change and this generation of voters no longer get excited by the grandstanding and the trading of insults to get cheap political points. They want to understand what is your party's philosophy. How does it align with their career goals and their aspirations and their hope for a future in Barbados? And that is ever so critical. They want to understand the approach to promoting good governance and accountability in public office. They want to understand how are you going to improve the lives of the average Barbadian in your service to people and not for self. You must not take for granted or insult the intelligence of your Barbadian people. The people are always wise, they are vigilant, and know, based on the past experiences, they are standing guard. And that's why they can see straight through those politicians who walk around like they are saints, like they are infallible beings, parading that they are holier than thou. And only a few days later, you could see exceedingly clear that they have left much to be desired. The electorate is coming to realize that the deception of the past has hindered them from materializing their immediate future. They are seeking alternatives for honest and dedicated people. People who are centered upon improving the lives of the ordinary man. And that you must do. The people know the difference. They know the difference between a good Samaritan and a silver-tongued charlatan. They know it well. The electorate is demanding the results, and you must prepare your policies and your plans of implementation, because policy is one, policy development is one. But who is going to execute those policies? And you need to be able to encourage and re-energize people so that they could drive your implementation. Your time is coming, and I'm saying it again, sooner than you think. Get your house in order. I have every confidence that the Democratic Labour Party has found in Dr. Ronnie Yearwood a candidate capable of leading this country. Around the region, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood is one of the party leaders who have inspired a lot of hope. And it has been long known that Dr. Ronnie Yearwood is not a prototypical politician. And to the alarm and inconvenience of some, he is a nonconformist. He challenges the status quo, unafraid to swim against the tide or go against the grain, and in that you have found a leader for the times. Let me tell you a little about myself. I remember the day when I told my dad that I was going to run into politics for elective office. And he said, all right, good, so we'll set you up. I said, Dad, to your dismay, it's not for your party. It's not our party. I'm going on the other side. And the only thing that was missing is to just pull the handbrakes and ask me to get out. But my dad said, while he was driving me to the airport, he said, you know what? If you're going to do that, that means you have fought long and hard. I'm in. You have vote number 2. Sometimes swimming upstream is the most uncomfortable thing to do. And so is change. It's not the easiest process, but it is worthwhile. And I want to commend you for finding the strength, some way, somehow, to pick a leader for the times. I know there's also an elephant in the room. And I said I always want to be fair. And some of you may feel a little uneasy. Some of you may feel a little, unsure, uncertain. But that elephant is not too big for me to address as well. Let me give you the answer to the narrative that some of the naysayers may say. And I am so honored today to stand here to call one name. And I don't want to preempt my speech, but the history books have recorded that after being elected in 1951, your father of independence, Errol Walton Barrow. Did you hear the name? Errol Walter Barrow left the Barbados Labour Party in 1955. Barrow believed that the Labour Party was the lapdog of imperialist power and a product of the colonial system. Barrow left and then said enough was enough. Like Barrow, Ronnie packed his bag and came to George Street on the premise that Barbados must be at the heart of every decision-making process. And like Barrow, Ronnie decided to move away from the institution that no longer served the people. And he's here today. And like Barrow, he's your leader. And like Barrow, he's immediately reaching out to be the friends of all, but I hope you are satellites of none. And so I want to implore of you, if your party ought to thrive, especially under the leadership of Dr. Yearwood, you must support his endeavors. This is not time for one-legged soldiers. This is not time for 1 foot in, 1 foot out. This is not time for the party faithfuls to start turning their backs and being disgruntled over petty issues. This is the time to pull your resources together. This is not the time. This is not the time to say, how come his shirt button so low? I can't run that. No. Or you say, but Ronnie, what are you doing today in Bajan Palace? He mad. This is not the time to take cheap shots at criticizing him. This is the time to come together and fight. But Ronnie, this is the time for them to keep you in course. This is the time for the older ones to guide you from making the mistakes of the past. And this is the time for you to hold up the shoulder of the older ones who are lagging behind. And with this renewed sense of urgency, you can move mountains. Make no mistake, this is not the time for missteps as well. You need to be circumspect in your approach. You need to be streamlined in your messaging. And every action ought to be in alignment with the party's ideals. Barbados needs Barbados needs the Democratic Labour Party, and the Democratic Labour Party needs every single one of you. Let no one vilify you or cast a cloud of doubt over your party. Don't let them tell you your party is no good. Don't let them tell you that you have failed over and over again. You have made some missteps along the way. You have made some wrong turns, and we have to be mature about that. But you must not, and you cannot allow them to give the impression that your party will remain where it is. The Democratic Labour Party has been good in the past, and it will still be good in the future. And I also want to point out to Dr. Yearwood that your big tent ought to be inclusive. This party has embraced you, and you must be willing to embrace each and every one from various of life, including those who may have challenged your position. Your predecessor Villa de Pisa, on the heels of her second triumph, she said, "Iron sharpeneth iron. If he is too comfortable, that is problem. If he is too uncomfortable, he will move. Demand of him, because to whom much is given, much is also required." In order that your big tent seems to be moving forward, you must put your boots and touch the hands of the average Barbadian. Reach out to the many young professionals in your country who are yearning to make a contribution but are in need of the platform to present their ideas and their vision. The big tent that you are building can't be complete without variety. And I want you to reflect as well, Doc, in the book of Genesis, particularly in chapter 6. And I make no apologies for using the good book. No apologies, because I am still rooted in my faith, and my father is a pastor. So you would appreciate the fact that I can't speak here today without quoting the Bible. So, and I want to repeat, in building your big tent, you cannot complete unless it has variety. And the book reminds us of Noah, who was a humble, ordinary man who was called to build an ark. And in building out that ark on the top of a mountain, it seemed ridiculous. Where's that water going to come up to get to there? And how are you going to get all the animals in there? And how are you going to get everybody? And people started laughing. I'm sure he was uncomfortable. I'm sure it was not the best thing for him in his mind, but he went in faith. And regardless of the enormity of the task, he did. But guess what? Those who were laughing did stay out. And I'm telling you all that to say, sometimes the job looks difficult. Sometimes the road looks hard. Sometimes you don't even know where you're going to get the strength to endure. Just have some faith. Just have some faith, and you will move mountains. In rebuilding of your party, you must not forget to engage every sector of your country. Every cohort has to be effectively addressed, because that has not been done on the other side. And we see why that construct is collapsing. And when the doors of the minds, like in the act of the electorate, are shut, then you will see a big blue flood in Barbados. A big blue flood, meaning you will overcome. And the people will realize that you are the one that they can entrust with their lives. That's not simple business. It's not just song and fancy and being all over the media. You are dealing with the lives of even those who are unborn. And your policies and your style of governance ought to take them into consideration. The former U.S. Secretary of State, Colin Powell, said, "Leadership is all about people and not about the organization. It is not about plans. It is not about strategies. It is not about people. It is all about people motivating people to get the job done." And finally, Dr. Yewood, I want to say to you, there's a reason why they are targeting you. They know you are filled with promise. They know that you are sharper than many of them combined together. And I have long realized, as we say in Dominica, Plima Gojon se pli tape wash. I will translate. And I will use a simple term to say, people only throw stones at mangoes when they're ripe. And I will try to use a Bajan parlance. People here throw stones at empty breadfruit tree. That's how you say it, right? You don't throw stones if there's not quality in there that you want. So nonetheless, you must never engage in the public trading of insults. When they go low, nah man, that means you're telling the man he's low. Dr. Ronnie, when they go low, you stay high. You're already high. And if you have more energy, you go higher. All right? So don't look like those who abuse the parliamentary privileges to self-aggrandize. And in a reckless attempt to victimize the defenders of democracy. I reckon those who stand on the floor of the Honorable House must be hammered through chastisement by the people and knighted with a sword of shame, because his contributions towards the system is to improve it. There's no reason why you should attack or use invectives to address a guy who simply wants to ask better for all of us. And I say to you, Dr. Yewood, don't be intimidated. And I say to every one of you, it's your right here to stand and ask for better. Do not let them intimidate you. Do not let them make you feel like you don't have a voice. Or don't even be afraid of them using insults to describe you when you are asking for better. You are the ones who have placed them there, and the power still resides in the people and will always reside in the people once you remain steadfast to your goals. My brothers and sisters, there is something happening across the region, triggered by the revolutionaries in Grenada. They elected a young lawyer, Deacon Mitchell. And in St. Kitts, they elected a young doctor, Dr. Terence Drew. And neither of these men, like Dr. Yewood of Barbados, were not elected members of parliament. Terence Drew did not have a seat. No, Prime Minister of Grenada did not have a seat. Dr. Yewood has no seat, but he will soon be the Prime Minister. And I heard the introduction earlier about the magic in the room. Well, let me say to you, I have no seat, but I will leave it to God's plan. Therefore, let your light shine before men, that they will see your good works. But I want to caution you, because he says, my glory I will share with no man. So let them see your good works and glorify him in heaven. So that is an immediate caution to remove self from the position and do it for your people. Do it for your country. Do it for our region. To those of you who are still concerned about the enormity of the task ahead, I will borrow a quote from Haile Selassie, and said, even in the 20th century, well, I want to augment that to our current time, even in the 21st century, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David will still beat Goliath. So it's your time, Dems, it's your time. Stand up and tell your people you are proud to be a Dem. Stand up and tell your people you are not giving up on your party. Stand up and tell your people you are in it for your country. Barbados needs the Democratic Labour Party. Stand up and say to them the Democratic Labour Party is here to stay. You are unshakable, you are unmovable, and with God in your vessel, you will smile at any storm. And weeping may there for a night, but joy may still and will still and will always come in the morning. So better days are coming for the Dems. God bless you. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. And God live the Barbados Labour Party.
A good man down, always keep a smile when they want me to frown. Keep the vibes and I stood my ground. They will never ever take my crown. Oh, Jah bless, I say no man curse. Things getting better when they thought it would be worse. Here comes the officers asking for a search. They found no weapon, just only a draw first. But I'm so solid as a rock, they just can't stop me now. Even when they set their traps, they just can't stop me now. People will say this and that, they just can't stop me now. Even when they set up roadblocks, they just can't stop me.
Most parents find ways to inspire hope in their children. The promise of success through discipline, hard work, and faith is a promise most Barbadian parents make to their children. When placed against a backdrop of poverty, that promise becomes much more challenging to fulfill, as there must be a willingness to endure failure and defeat as precursors to success. This is the picture Grace consciously or unconsciously painted for her son, Ronnie.
There are 3 children, Ronnie, Rommel, and Tyrone. Ronnie is the first son. Ronnie was always a child, like a go-get a person. He always liked to be out front and doing things and trying to achieve from early. Like 3 years and a half, he could have read a Ladybird book. At the house in Boscobel, there were no running water, no electricity, and we had a pit toilet on the outside, and we used to bring water from the school pipe to fulfill our needs, to get water on mornings and to bathe at nights and such like.
I don't think there was any shame in that life, because in some ways when you're living it, you don't recognize that it means anything, or it's just your life. You're not like, oh I'm really poor and those folks over there are really rich, so something's wrong with me. No, it's just the experience and the things that you live through.
I can remember when they were living in the old house in Boscobel, which to me, the house was old, but it was comfort. When you go in the house, you find a lot of love. It had no, as I said, no running water, no electricity, but it was always love in there.
Well, as a mother, I still had my sister, which we called Mom. Mom was always there for us. She was the working one, and she was always there for us. She made sure, I don't care how little they have to eat. Don't care what happens, Ronnie and the other brother had to survive. So there was always Mom. That is my sister. That we call Mom.
Mom she always used to work hard. She was a laborer in the field.
And she was always with us. And she always said, you got to work. She was never late for work. I don't even know if Mom ever had a sick day from work. Always early for work. So a lot of value tools come through Auntie, we call her Mom, come Mom, all these values, and a lot of it passed on to Ronnie, on to me, and on to Ronnie, right? So that's how we get this work ethics, and you gotta work for what you want. Because we were poor, we had no running water, we had no light, so we had to work. Everybody can come up with property, but it's up to you if you want to stay in it or you want to come out. Up to you. You got a choice. The parents got a choice to teach their children the right way, to work hard, to make themselves into something, and they have a choice how to do it. It's up to you to stay in it or to get out of it. And all of us have choices in life. I decide I am not staying in it. I'm getting out of it.
We were living in Boscobel at that time, and I remember probably about maybe 5, I was probably 5 or 6, I think, around there. And my aunt who's afraid to move from basically a house that was falling apart and no running water, no electricity, nothing. My mother had found this place to rent in Spikestown, and my mother was like, "We're all leaving." And my aunt was like, "No, I want to hold on here." My mother's like, "No, but what are you holding on to? We're leaving." And it was so interesting up to the point of almost the moment we were about to leave. My aunt still was trying to like hold on. My mother's like, "We're going," because for her it was always trying to do better by herself and by us. And we moved to Spikestown, and we moved into our new place, and this determination, it's always been there.
I got a job as a security guard, government security guard. And when I got the job, the first paycheck, I said, "This is it." I saw this house in Spikestown that it could have, in Bovez Road, that we could have rented. And I just went home and told my mom, "We are moving." She said, "Moving where?" I said, "We are moving." I went to Lake. She said, "Okay, Grace, you can have the house." And I decided to get a truck, pack her everything, tell her, I call her at work and tell her, "When you come home, don't come to Boscobel, come to Bovez Road and Spikestown." How? Because we moved there. And when we get in the house, Ronnie bed, Ronnie went to come back. And Ronnie take long bed and all the shower, singing and bed and all the shower. And every minute was flushing the toilet.
I can still feel the water and hear the water. And it to me, it was the most fascinating thing, our invention ever in the entire world. Like, you turn on this thing and there's water in your house. You didn't have to bring it. And it was just fascinating. I even think now I'm still fascinated. There's nothing like a warm shower, a nice shower. It beats all things. It's such a simple pleasure, but it's such a marvelous thing. And I know it may sound weird to some people but for me, not having one and then going to have one, and this is years and years. I'm an adult now with my own child and family, but that memory, that concept, it is still so vivid and so powerful. I think for me, primary school was instrumental and a very, very, very developmental period. It kind of gave me all the groundings that I needed, but really, I think I became myself at Alexandra School. I think I owe everything to this place. I've said that 1,000 times, and I would say it another 1,000 times until the end of my days, because I don't think I could have been the person that I am without Alexandra School, without the teachers and the support that I got here, and obviously my mother. There's that unique combination.
You have to work hard. If you want to achieve anything in life, you have to work towards it. If you don't work towards it, you will never get there. So I taught him, work towards what you want. It's all about you.
When I told her I was going to be head boy, I think for her it was just like, fine, that's what you're going to do. Just do it. I mean, it's there's no barriers. We never saw barriers. We were never trained to see things in our way. And even if things were in your way, there are just challenges. There's things to overcome in what you're trying to be.
Well, when he said he wanted to be a head boy, I know Ronnie would be a head boy. Because you could see he had it in him to be a head boy, to lead. He was always a leader. He likes to lead. He's not taking second place. He likes to lead, and he's going to lead the right way.
The experience of being head boy was defining in my life. That's kind of one of those marker moments, because I'd achieved something that I in my head I'd set a goal to achieve. And not only that, I was able to recognize and find my leadership skills. I was able to find my voice, my debating skills, my oratorical skills, my ability to function under pressure and all those things and represent my school.
He was a peer counselor, counseling children and such like at the school. So when you could lead children and you as a child yourself, that means that you would make it and achieve what you want to achieve. But you have to work for it. have to work hard.
I was head boy, I was doing all these things, winning competitions, debate captain, all sorts of stuff. And I did my CXCs and I didn't get the grades that I wanted or the grades that were projected. I remember it was crushing because here you had someone who was supposed to be in excellence and the idea is that you're excellence in everything. And sometimes things happen and it was crushing. And for my mother's part, she was like, yeah, you're going back to school. You're going to go back and you're going to finish and you're going to do the things that you should do.
Well, when I heard when he came home, he told me we only passed 3, and I thought the boy was gonna lay there and dead or something, because he went into this depressed state. And I said, listen, you don't got depressed state, get up and go again. You will simply go back to school and you will do the others. You are not alone. You ain't alone. Well, other children want the same thing, but you can't lay there and play dead. You get up and go, pull yourself together. So he went back to school, and then next year he did the other subjects, and he got through.
My mother was there to pick me up and say, you know what, this is nothing, everything.
Gentleman striving for excellence in life and achieving a goal that I saw with him, because I always knew like he would be like a politician. And I would make point telling him, when you become the prime minister, I'm going to wear the biggest hat and I'm going to wear a chiffon dress little baby doll is, I'm going to step proudly with you, and I'm going to live to see that day.
I have a good, excellent relationship with Ronnie. Yes, I said.
Ronnie, Mom Grace always had a good impact on his life. She would teach him about the morals of life, but most of all, she always put God first in Ronnie's life.
That drive and that determination to once you fix and you focus on something to just do it. I see that a lot in her, and I know that's also in me. And also to never give up or give in. That's an important quality that has been passed down.
Hard work, discipline, faith, and a willingness to endure failure are doors out of the challenges posed by poverty. That is the promise Grace gave to Ronnie and her other two sons. Ronnie received a doctorate at age 29. He has degrees and training in law, politics, sociology, economics, and education. He is supported by a beautiful wife and an adoring son. His education and family life are buttressed by a party and a country that have been very welcoming and supportive of his willingness to serve Barbados. This is evidence that Grace's promise to Ronnie has been fulfilled.
Good evening, Democratic Labour Party. Let us
Most
stand
parents
and
find
warmly
ways to
welcome the President of the Democratic Labour Party, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood.
Things does come before blessings, but we have to be patient, yeah. Weeping and mourning in the night, but joy in the morning. But we just have to endure. You see, God, the way no night come, so you don't really need to lie down. Them say what goes around comes right back around. I go wait until my time come. So from sun up straight to sunset, you could catch I bust in a sweat. I must climb out. I feel like hope.
Good evening, Democratic Labour Party family. Good evening, Barbados. I want to say a big thank you, and that's probably a strange way to begin a speech by thanking persons. I want to say a big thank you to the executive, to the General Counsel. I want to single out Mr. Steve Blackett for his unwavering support. He has stepped into the breaches, he has stepped up, and he's served this party with distinction. And someday, as I said today during our meeting, we will find appropriate ways to reward his service. The history of this party will record that he has given of full service, and we should be thankful for all that he has done for this party, and we should thank him. I want us to also pay thanks to Comrade Jeff Shepard for his sterling work as treasurer of this party. He has brought discipline, and he also should be thanked for his service. Far too often, we do not thank each other, we do not show kindness, we do not understand to show gratitude for the service that people do for this party and for this country. So I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Since we last spoke as a Democratic Labour Party family, I delivered my inaugural address thanking you for taking a chance on a lanky boy from Boscobel. And before I get too deep into the address, it would be remiss of me not to also acknowledge our former president, Verla de Pisa. who would have encouraged me, who would have embraced me to join this great institution. And as we look around George Street today, we can see her handiwork, which the new executive was able to build on. So I want to thank her as well for her contribution to this party and to our country. And I know in the fullness of time, she will make other contributions. I must also acknowledge and thank the members of the branch, the best branch in Barbados, the best branch on the planet, the best branch on the universe, St. James South. And I want to also thank the constituents of St. James South for loaning me to the party to be their president at this particular time. And I thank them for their guidance, their prayer, their support, and their encouragement in all that I do. And there's one person that I must thank. That is my mom, that's obvious, but importantly, I want to thank my wife Lucy, and I want to thank my son Solomon for bearing with me for the late nights, for the long evenings, for being trailed to George Street. He's now a George Street child. That's all I can say. And he is part of the family. And I think it's important that my family is part of your family and part of politics, because for too often we think of politics as something that is dirty and something that is wrong. And if it is, then I should not be able to bring my family here, but it is not. Because I want you to understand that your families are welcome here. This is a place that we should bring our brothers, our sisters, and our kids, our grandparents, to share, to renew politics, to bring that new spirit and that new faith to what we call political life. We must change it, and I demand that you change it. This evening, I am in equal measure proud and humbled to address you as your president at our first annual conference together. It is my honor to lead this party, a party that has given great service to this country. This evening is of particular honor because so much of what modern Barbados became, that collection of villages transformed into a nation, was because of that guy, Arrowborough, and this party. None can dispute that. It was in this modern Barbados where I had my chance to be the best of me through my mother's promise. I was born and raised in Boswell, and life wasn't easy. As Langston Hughes, the great poet, said in the poem Mother to Son, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It has had its tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up and places with no carpet on the floor bare. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. We didn't have electricity, we didn't have running water, and my father disappeared before I could have any real memories of him. But despite these circumstances and challenges, my mother always pushed us to do better. You're not your surroundings, she would repeat to me and my brothers. While she could sometimes be direct in her own way, my friends who have met the force of nature, that is my mother, that we literally call the grace, because know what I mean. Her message that nothing was impossible always rang through. My mother always wanted me to do better and for her family to do better. She had dreams of better, like her mother and her father, my grandparents before, both who would have worked in the fields and built their families on real pride, dignity, and industry. My entire life is built on an abiding faith that all things are possible given the opportunity. We can all make something of ourselves. My mother taught me there were no barriers. Even when people put up barriers, you simply push through them, you went around them, or you go through them. A steely determination to do better, be better, and to take as many people along with you in your journey. My story is not my story alone. It is the Bajan story. Our Bajan dream, that if you did the right thing, you went to school, you got a job, you paid your taxes, you paid into the national insurance scheme, you worked hard. The result was that you could provide for your family. You could buy a house. You could send your children to school. you could live to see your children become the best of you and the best of Barbados. In a single generation, you could overcome poverty to become a homeowner and make something of yourself and raise your children in a life of service. All in a single generation. That is my mother's story. That is my story. This is the story of so many of you sitting here today, watching at home or watching in the diaspora. That story of Barbados, the dream of Barbados. Our stories, our dreams, woven together as a collective, woven together to form the very country that we call Barbados. I am my mother's promise. A promise I wish to pass to my son Solomon, so he too can be the best of whatever he wants to be. I owe my mother Grace so much of who I am today, but I also owe all the generations of Barbadians who simply wanted a better life for their children and to leave Barbados in a better way than they found it. I want us to recall that our founding as a party was to ensure that all Barbadians could live out their dream, the Bajan dream. That we could get a good education, we could find decent jobs, we could feed our families and not depend on handouts. That we could put something away for a rainy day, we could retire in dignity, we could celebrate family milestones, we could participate fully and without fear in our democracy. Many of you have worked hard, you've played by the rules. However, we feel let down by this government, which has left us to walk alone. In a short time after the government has received a second overwhelming majority, Barbados is now in a state of calamity. Every project is announced and re-announced because it doesn't work. Few big projects seem to get off the ground. What became of the steel building, that 12-story, 184-room hotel with branded apartments? What became of the House of Pillars, that 9-story condominium, or the Royal Mail building, the 6-story condominium, or Fort Willoughby, or the Lighthouse Restaurant, or the islands of Barbados, and on and on and on. All fantasy, and some dangerous ones in the mix. How can we forget what became of Hayat? In what universe, fiction, or fact can the government take away the land of one private citizen and give it to another to develop? And worse yet, the promised project still cannot get off the ground. For all the bluster and the energy, the simple fact is the government is not working. Barbados finds itself in a very odd and a very strange place, a government with all the seats. On paper, a supposedly talented cabinet, constant, almost 24-hour hyper-communication from government, and like punkahi donkey all over the place. Yet, an animal farm mentality pervades throughout the government, using media to control the story, while the actual results are meager. All the results bragged about, the debt restructuring, has come back to haunt us in the very ways that some warned it would. Thousands of Barbadians who have worked hard and trusted government bonds saw their savings for retirement loss. The credit union lost $33 million, and the National Insurance Scheme lost $1.2 billion. The animal farm type mentality is evidenced by one of the vilest attacks in recent history by the Minister on Energy for those of us who dared to ask questions of the government about the Auditor General's report or electricity rate increases. Transparency, inclusion, and good governance are not seated at the same table with this government. In fact, when two private citizens and I asked for clarity on the legislation which could affect how citizens review licenses for electricity, the Minister of Energy stood up under the protection of parliamentary privilege and in a cowardly act attacked us for exercising our constitutional rights. Then, the Prime Minister, who is known to dramatically chastise world leaders for ignoring the voice of the small man and small nations, stood up and applauded this act of vilifying and insulting private citizens. We dared to ask for transparency. We dared to ask for good governance that we were promised. How dare us? Meanwhile, the fantasy politics continues. The government says it's addressing the cost of living, yet every day the crisis continues. The government says there are no issues with the Auditor General's report. That is laughable if it were not so serious. We want to hear those elected, and we want them to be held accountable to us, Barbadians, and to this party. Yes, this party. The government is accountable to us because we make up part of Barbados. We and other citizens put pressure on the government in regards to the Auditor General's report to respond to the concerns expressed in that report. It seems that pressure is working, but this is only the beginning. Therefore, while we welcome the creation of the Internal Audit Office and responses from the Director of Finance to the Auditor General's report, there's still an element of fantasy politics. You can create an entire new department to manage financial affairs, but cannot properly staff the current one, the Auditor General, that is enshrined in the Constitution of Barbados. Further, what was missing from the Director of Finance responses, and this is no fault of his own, because he is not a politician, he's a civil servant, were responses that showed political action and accountability. We call for good governance, accountability, and the funding of the Auditor General's office, giving the office more bite as required, and restructuring the Public Accounts Committee so that it's an independent committee. How can members of Parliament police members of Parliament? Further, there was no response to the recommendation from the Auditor General to be provided with more staff. 60-something pages of responses and not a single one that says the Auditor General will get the staff that he asked for. But we're getting a new Internal Audit Office. No response to the constitutional changes to make the Independent Center the chair of the Public Accounts Committee so it can meet and get on with the people's business, even though we recognize that the Public Accounts Committee needs thorough reform. However, what the Auditor General suggested would be better than nothing. The Prime Minister and her government of 30 need not hide behind civil servants when it's a difficult situation. Face it head on. Someone has to be responsible in a government of 30. I encourage the professionals, and I want you to hear me, civil servants, I encourage you to press on with the difficult job that you have at hand, but do not be used as political scapegoats by this or any government in Barbados. The government says little or nothing on crime, but for the Attorney General to hold a press conference filled with circus antics. This party, in all sincerity, this party behaving like the grown-up in Barbadian politics, said to the Attorney General and the government, crime is a national issue, let us work together and address the root causes of crime. Be tough on the causes of crime and not just crime. We offered twice, and the record shows that. So as my grandmother would say, you don't let nobody kick you a third time. This government's addiction to fantasy politics continues. The government finally provided relief on food prices and gas after pressure repeatedly from this party. That is a fact. The government caps VAT on fuel, but fuel costs keep rising. Is the VAT cap on gas at $4.48 the result of VAT cap alone, or a decrease in the price of international petrol products as well? This party suggested that if you actually wanted to help struggling Barbadians, cut the actual taxes that make up a large part of the cost of fuel, so that the public can know how much relief they're getting. That is transparency. That is new politics. But obviously, they think Bajans can't see through the fantasy politics. Food prices are still rising. What's the reply? A basket of items to tell you what to eat and to buy. We would like the government to share with the public the findings of its evaluation of the price ease agreed with the private sector. Are prices actually coming down, and on what goods? We maintain that the government should enable and empower you. You need more disposable income, not only on some selected basket of goods to tell you what you should buy. Therefore, I say to this government again, bring forward the reverse tax credits and give those earning below $25,000 a year, give them their money. It is theirs, it is not yours. Now, the National Insurance Scheme. This government says in one breath, the NIS is not in crisis. In another, it says they want solutions from the people in weeks. So stop trying to play it down, because this is a crisis. It is a crisis to all the Barbadians who have heard their pensions are now in peril. It is a crisis to parents who want to know what the future holds for their children. It is a crisis to my generation who were told the NIS is essential to live out the Bajan dream. The Prime Minister and the government cannot foist their responsibility to manage on the people of Barbados. What is the role of all the government's well-paid consultants in all of this? These consultants should be proposing great ideas like making the utility company allocate a portion of their shares to the NIS as suggested by none other than our heroine, Tricia Watson, and I endorse this approach. Why are taxpayers being asked to shoulder the responsibility for the National Insurance Scheme? Consulting is one thing, responsibility for the decision is another. The government should grow up and own what is your government. Be responsible. You have the whole cake. You got all 30. You've been given it twice. Do your job. It is that simple. We know that you know what they're going to do. They've already made their decisions. Tell us and let us get on with it instead of this farce of a consultative exercise called town halls. But this government is a fair weather government. When it is bad news, the government declares, let us consult. When it is good news or news that attracts the global media, the government likes to stand alone in the spotlight. We know the pattern. It is common knowledge in this country that young, qualified Barbadians are frustrated, they're anxious, because the dreams their parents fulfilled for themselves are becoming impossible for them to achieve for their own children. Is this the life for your children, your grandchildren, your family, your friends? And while on the topic of decay and rot of dreams, information reaching me is that the Chief of Staff and the Prime Minister, hired in March this year, is being paid $20,000 a month. No one, and it's not that per se, let me explain this. No one is yet to explain with limited resources why we need a Chief of Staff in the Prime Minister's office when we have a permanent secretary. But it gets worse. In June, a stylist was moved into the job of Chief of Protocol. But don't we already have a Chief of Protocol in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Why are we duplicating work? Then there's a director, and the director has staff. All of these people working for tens and thousands of dollars a month. And it's not necessarily the money, it's not necessarily the consultants, but you have to explain and talk to us and tell us why you are doing these things. We have put you there. We deserve better. We demand better. We demand you take responsibility for your actions. You are the government. And I could list enough of all the consultants that government is lavishing taxpayers' money on, yet none of these people can come up with solutions, and every time there's a problem, they're coming to us for solutions. Meanwhile, thousands of qualified Barbadian young men and women cannot find work. I possess more information regarding transparency and accountability in spending, but we're not here to discuss that. We're here to talk about the Bajan dream, a mother's promise that seems further and further away with each day of passing for so many of you. And we wonder why young people are leaving Barbados for a better life abroad. Can you blame them? Can they get a house? Can they get a job here? Can they get an opportunity in Barbados that does not require some transactional relationship with a politician or an associate of a politician who wants something for something? Cost of living, fuel costs, national insurance scheme, lack of opportunities, Auditor General's report, friends and families' approach to government, it speaks to a lack of good governance. That is the core of all the problems we face in Barbados and of all the problems we have ever faced in this country. It is lack of good governance. I am committed to a different politics, the practice of an inclusive politics, the practice of a new politics. There is room for everyone under this big tent. Do not let your hearts be troubled, for there are many rooms in this house, and if it were not so, I would have told you. Trust me. In fact, no, trust yourselves. Believe in you and the Bajan dream you want to live out. And you have to get up and dedicate yourself to our great cause, the cause of uplifting the people of Barbados. No one will be left behind. I say this to the party, I say this to the country: unite and win. That is how we honor our founders. Because this party has been the cornerstone of an independent and a modern Barbados. Have you read your scriptures? The stone which the builders rejected, the same stone was made the chief cornerstone. This was from the Lord, and it was marvelous in our eyes. Democracy is not about giving someone a vote in exchange for something. And I fear that is what our politics is becoming. That has to change. Democracy requires you to actively participate and be empowered. Sisters and brothers, this is not just an annual conference. Today we start the long march forward to serve the people of Barbados again. The Democratic Labour Party is moving in a new direction. The past is the past. Barbadians are calling for a new Democratic Labour Party which continues to hold to the founding principles of social democracy of our founder, our Walton Borough. I therefore issue a call to all Barbadians at home and in the diaspora that the Democratic Labour Party is open for business. And I'm gonna go real slow on this one, because I want everyone to hear me, I want you to understand me, and I want this to be very clear. If you have a genuine desire to serve, step forward. If you have a genuine desire to honor your forefathers and this country and your children and their children's children, step forward. If you believe that you can do better and you can live out the dream that is ours in this country, step forward. We want to hear from you. We are embracing additional and new talent and new candidates to deliver the Barbados that people are calling for and evolve for. Step forward. I will be unafraid, I will be uncompromising in this job as your president and your leader to get this party ready to go and ready to govern for the people of Barbados. I will be unafraid and I will be uncompromising in defending the rights of Barbadians to be treated fairly and to have a seat at the table through this great party. Politics alone does not make a country, especially when it is marred by family and friends and highly paid consultants. Do you know what makes a country? Leadership. And that is what a new Democratic Labour Party will provide. This party, brothers and sisters, we have to remember that we are not and we were not always right, but we are worthy. Today, we remember that we can win again, and the people of Barbados need us to dig deep and win for them. It is not about us, it is about them. We serve them. We do not serve ourselves. This great party is a way to deliver on the promise of a mother and the promise of Barrow for independence. As our Barrow said, let me tell you what kind of mirror image I have of you, or what mirror image that the Democratic Labour Party has of you. The Democratic Labour Party has an image that the people of Barbados will be able to run their own affairs, to pay for the cost of running their, to have an education system which is as good as what any can be attained in any industrialized country anywhere in the world. That is why we must embrace the promise of new politics, a new politics for a better Barbados, a new politics which will not allow differences of opinion to blind us to the reality that we are still one people. This new politics must be people-focused. It must be participatory, where people are given a say. It is about inclusion and not exclusion. Fundamentally, a Democratic Labour Party government must be committed to empowering all of our people. It must run through every single policy, from education to energy to road building to culture to sport. Every single thing that we think and we plan to do must empower you. You must become better. You must be able to be the best of yourselves. Because when you are empowered, you can make your communities whole again. You can build your families. You can make yourselves whole again. You can make this country great again. As I traverse Barbados and the diaspora, I'm in awe of the boundless skills and potentials that reside within our people. Comrades, what our people lack are basically meaningful opportunities to empower themselves and their families. And this is what separates a progressive, new Democratic Labour Party from the other party. This Democratic Labour Party wants an empowered people. That is why I joined the Democratic Labour Party, and that is why I will stay in the Democratic Labour Party. And this is where I belong. We aren't here to tell you to drive less or eat rice without gravy or demand you pay more. I leave that to those satisfied that you are struggling. Stay the course, they tell you. Stay what course? A course of struggle? The Democratic Labour Party says, no, no, no. The people of Barbados say no to a course of struggle. What Barbadians want is simply to live comfortably with real dignity, which means having meaningful opportunities and quality choices in everything from the schools you choose to go to, from the polyclinic, to the jobs that you will want, to the house that you will live in. Opportunities and quality choices are what will define the new mission of this party. Barbadians must be able to provide and thrive, not struggle. No Barbadian should have to choose between breakfast or dinner. No Barbadian should have to say, if I put gas in my car today, I can't pay the bills tomorrow. We should be able to do more than struggle with the basics. We want you to be able to take your family to that Sunday lunch or that good old-fashioned excursion. We want you to be able to take that holiday to visit your sister or your brother who lives abroad. We want you to be able to go out and enjoy concerts and festivals in this country. We want you to build up for that rainy day fund. Start your small business that you've told your friends and your family 1,000 times about. We just want you to be able to take a breath and relax. Enough with the struggle. I am sick and tired of crying. It said the Caribbean, including Barbados, gonna be poor. And I'm not daunted by this. You know why? Because what energizes me is that the people of Barbados, Barbadians and the people of the Caribbean, are a hopeful people, hopeful of better days to come. It is this hope that continues to breathe life into me and life into the evolving Democratic Labour Party. We must take it to the next level, which is real economic empowerment for each and every one of us. Bees, Dems, and in-betweens. Every single Barbadian must be empowered. Every single one of you, every single day that you wake up, must know that your life today was better than it was yesterday, and it will be better the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and generation after generation. That is the mission of this party. We will not let them divide us, because they cannot divide us. This country will unite, this party will unite. So this evening, I ask you to join us as we try to live out the next stage of the development of this country. This country has to become one Barbados. Every person having a room in the tent, having a room in the house, a seat at the table, breaking bread, if we are to have any chance of making it for the next 50 years of this project that we call independence. I propose that the government should function as business and social enterprise. I've spoken about this before when I delivered the Albaro Memorial Lecture, and I want to expand on it a little bit today. It is without a doubt that controlling the public purse is a difficult job, and the government should concentrate, I think, on the provision of key social services in education, health, and the ongoing development of Barbados, and making it easy for people to simply get on with their business and in creating jobs. I think government needs to get out of its own way, or rather, mercurial politicians need to get out of the way so that parts of government can function and make money and do exactly that. This is instead of a government and its machinery being used for artificial short-term ends by politicians trying to desperately hand out jobs or piecemeal short-term projects for a vote. This does no one in this country any good. For example, should governments be engaged in Boys on the Blocks program, some of which placate that group until the next handout, or should government provide real opportunities for our young people and our young men, recognizing that the boys on the blocks and the students at university are experiencing the same anxiousness, the same angst about opportunities and their place in the world. But university creates opportunities for one set of young people while temporary handouts are given to another set of young people. That is not a Barbados that we want to create. Parts of the government and statutory corporations with money-making potential should open themselves as spaces for entrepreneurship and innovation, for opportunities from technical to more traditional areas. For example, arrangements to contract out public services to various competitors are allowing the use of government-owned facilities to provide for the creative industry to make exportable goods such as movies and TV shows and entertainment shows. Government can also use procurement and the purchasing power to drive innovation in the local market with a view to encourage exports of products and services. Governments can also provide framework to support scientists and tech entrepreneurs. How can we do this? One way of doing this is simple. Create centers of excellence and provide the appropriate fiscal incentives to attract Bajan talent back to Barbados, or for Bajan talent to stay in Barbados. This is what I mean when I talk about government acting as business and social enterprise. It is about finding ways to open new spaces for jobs and for development. And I'll talk very briefly about this, my pet project, service zones. A lot of my close friends know I talk about this a lot. And when I talk about service zones, I'm talking about not a repeat of the early pre- and post-independence industrialization by invitation project and exclusive economic zones, which, like tourism, can contribute significant economic growth. But what I'm talking about, I am talking about a zone just not being a physical space that can be a center or a hub for finance and banking and tech and shipping and arbitration. What I'm talking about is something similar to what they do in Dubai in terms of their international financial center as a financial free zone, which could be a hub for the Caribbean, and we can support it as an arbitration hub as well. So what does it require to set up a service zone? It requires us to set out the laws that govern the behavior of the people and the business in and outside the zone, and importantly, ways to address disputes when laws are broken. What else? Properly designed incentive packages for mature businesses and for startups. One size does not fit all. This should not be about simply giving tax breaks. Those days are over. And what we must ensure is that the development of large-scale capital projects must be tied to the development of social capital. It is not necessarily about building new edifices of concrete and reducing already limited green spaces. It's about revitalizing existing areas and repurposing them for our country. Service zones can be a way to attract new professional services and businesses and talent to Barbados. The point is, Barbados could become a hub in Latin America and the Caribbean for investment, for arbitration, for new services that expand our tourism product. Now, will we achieve this if we're not united? Of course not. I am privileged to lead the Democratic Labour Party. It is just beyond my first 100 days. I will say, honestly, heart and hand, this is not an easy job. This is not an easy time in Barbados. In fact, I believe I only do this job by the grace of God, with the support of my family and the people in this party who continue to be a gift to me. No Democratic Labour Party leader has ever had an easy ride, and I expect no less. This party has always, and rightly so, because of its purpose and because of its founding, it has always been held to a higher standard. There is an urgency on this party to get on with it and show that we can do new things, show that we can create conditions for new jobs, and that we can give people a seat in the table in practicing new politics. The party's aim must be to make Barbados that shining city on the hill, and to also make Barbados a light on the hill. You are a light unto the world. A city located on a hill cannot be hidden. People do not light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. This party's great aim is to serve, and in doing so, make the lives of Barbadians better. I believe that better days are ahead of us, that we as a country can provide a thriving environment to our struggling middle class, and we can also look after our poor who just need that little extra help or opportunity to make something of themselves and do better for their families. We are preparing for a battle for the soul of this nation, and it will not be easy. We can only do this together. You know what? I need you. I cannot do this alone. This is not Ronnie's fight. This is not Corey's fight. This is not Melissa's fight. This is not Ryan's fight and Maxine's or Irene's or Steve's or Dormarie. This is the fight the party is being called to serve. We must be one Democratic Labour Party. And you know something, we always talk about Alabara and the Dipper and the party. But you know what we can do best for Alabara? Stop talking, unite and win. That is how we honor the memory of the great man. I've examined this great party, and one thing is quite clear. When we are united as a fighting force across Barbados, there's no stopping us. There's no stopping the Democratic Labour Party. Dems now, Dems again, Dems forever. I love this party. I love this country. I see great things happening for both this party and both this country. I want the party I love to serve the country that I love. It means believing in yourself again. It means believing in Barbados again. I'm not talking about some kumbaya, hold hands, we're all together, some kind of belief. I am saying to this country, I'm saying to this party, unite. I am talking about the sort of belief that allowed the mother's promise to her son in a modern Barbados that provided opportunities, not handouts, so that as a Bajan you can make something of yourselves and you can live your lives out in dignity. I am talking about belief that all is possible in the face of what looks like impossible odds that see me as an example here today speaking before you. It is unlikely in the world of words that this lanky boy from Boscobel would lead the party of the great man. But here I am, that living example of the Beijing Dream, founded by the great man and this Democratic Labour Party. So what are you going to do about it? Venting on social media while waiting with bated breath for another press conference to throw some crumbs at you. Nothing will change. Token measures. Announcements that Bajans will get 4 cents off a pack of macaroni. These displays only serve to stoke the collective ego of the administration while the decay and the rot of the Beijing Dream further sets in. Well, for too long we have murmured. For too long we have sat in silence. Get up and make your voices heard. Get up from your corners and join me. Get up, stand up. Change will only happen because you demand it. Believe in you. Believe in the change that you can bring to this country. Get up, I tell you, get up. Just join this movement. Join Barbados. This party needs you. Your country needs you. This party that I lead commits to giving you a full seat at the table so that we can all join hands and we can break in the bread. We can all share in the promise that is the new Barbados and new politics. Long live the Democratic Labour Party.
Things does come before blessings, but we have to be patient, yeah. Weeping and mourning in the night, but joy in the morning. But we just have to endure. You see, God, the way no night come, so you don't really need to lie down. Them say what goes around comes right back around. I go wait until my time come. So from sun up straight to sunset, you could catch I busting a sweat. I must time out. I feel like hope. But he gave us the strength and the will and the power and the courage to handle our problems through him. So on the count of 4, I want everybody step on their problems. 1, 2, 3, 4. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them, manhandle them, manhandle them, dismantle them, dismantle them, trample them, trample them, trample them, kick out their problems, kick out their problems. So as they sink you under, you float. Ride all these songs, them just like a boat. So as they push you down, so you get up. They have to wonder how you does get up. And every crack you see, you does see through. And by the help of God, you will get through. Now everybody shout, I feel like hope. Soca Kingdom.
Praises, yeah. I know it's a privilege, yeah.
Then move to the rock, like for real. Gem of the Caribbean Sea, one thing I am a picture. I'm a picture. Yeah, yeah. Silent crystal blue sea, one thing between I am a picture. I'm a picture. Yeah, sing the pride and industry, Christ Church, the St. Lucie. Hello, come on. Drinks, bags, wrapping my beard and flag, music, jump up and down and sing it. Gem of the Caribbean Sea, one nothing if we am a picture. I'm a picture. It's what in society. We're one family. I am a picture. Picture. God do mentally. Every side. I'm a picture. Just festival reggae on the hill. Get your baby first. I'm a picture. Picture. Music. One thing.
Good night, members. We are looking for, if you're lost your key, please go to the office. It's a black list and it says Hillman. So if you've lost your key, please head on over to the office. Thank you. Barbados, I love you. Love you, Barbados. It's my home. It's my home. No matter where I go, Barbados. It's my home. It's my home. It's my home. No matter where.
Hey, not yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen? The recently concluded elections for the positions of fourth vice president and
Results are as follows. I shall give you the positions for the fourth Vice President first. Mr. Nicholas Allen got 29 votes. Ms. Dawn Marie Armstrong got 65 votes. Mr. Nathaniel Boyce got 3 votes. Mr. Curtis Cave tallied 15 votes. Mr. Corey Cox got 14 votes. Mr. Paul Gibson got 82 votes. Mr. Michael Lashley got 44 votes. And Mr. Olwinski got 25 votes. I therefore declare Mr. Paul Gibson fourth Vice President of the Democratic Labour Party. For the position of General Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Dawn Marie Armstrong got 53 votes. Mr. Stephen Blackett got 203 votes. Dr. Dennis Lowe got 22 votes. I therefore declare Mr. Steve Blackett the General Secretary of the Democratic Labour Party. I thank you very much. Have a blessed night. Ladies and gentlemen, just bear with me quickly. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, please bear with me for 1 second, then get back to your celebrations. The positions for the General Council will be known on Tuesday afternoon. I say again, the positions for the General Council will be known on Tuesday afternoon. I thank you.
Me why you want me make you think of the sky. Me bossy when you find me. I am bossy doing sexy. You say nothing, sing, but don't want you. But this is what we do. Shake, don't forget, shake, shake. Oh, I don't know I'm festival every day. I get on. Bacchanal every day. Just walking up season. Don't just stand up here watching me like that crazy. Don't you understand this thing like inside? Don't you know I'm on the back? Oh, I'm on the back. I'm back for the back. Oh, I'm on the back. Oh, why? Oh, the sky. If I'm feeling there, you will find me. And they see music, but they see. Oh, I don't know about you. What do this? Shake. 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 Oh, every every gap on is walking up season. Every day's like no emotion that I see. Why you standing there getting on your emoji? Don't you know I'm not a fan? Like a woman, I'm a fan. That's what it's fine. Like I don't you know I can live out a style. It can't be the spare you will find me. And they see I can see. Oh, I don't know how to see. This is what we do. This is what we do. Just stand up here like that crazy. And it's something. Don't you know I'm not a fan? I'm not the fan. And then for the stand, like I'm going to fall the light. I stand aside. If I see what's there, you will find me. And then see, you may not see. I don't know what we do.
This song is dedicated to all those who appreciate social commentary calypso and are firm believers in the freedom of expression. The good Lord continue to bless you. I'm going to jump on Miss Martin's bandwagon, and I don't care what nobody say, because I do not intend to remain forever in the minority, okay? I want to experience what so many seem to be experiencing now. And I am determined to get in on the action as soon as time will allow. But I am somewhat reluctant because I have never followed anyone blindly. So come on, Prime Minister, demonstrate your power and do these couple things for me. First, for the removal from the Anglican Church of portraits of that white Jesus, and legislate that the head of PTMI must be from Barbados. Take 5 acres of land from every plantation as reparations for blacks. And let me see if commission and salary will support you on that. If you do these things, I'll bow down at your feet. I'll sing your praises, drink your Kool-Aid, and eat anything you tell me to eat. And when you enter in Jackson Terrace Stage 2, I'll greet you with a loud fanfare. But in order for me to grant you such a treat, you would first go back to there. You do this thing, I'll jump in your choir and sing. No matter what I must get on that bandwagon, I know that there is still room for me. Even though I've noticed all kind of riffraff getting on board recently, several of whom are nothing but an embarrassment to our ancestors, and some educated ones who would pass yard foulism with flying colors. But their degree of contentment has piqued my interest, got me eager to get a taste. Now I am one step closer, but I want them to do a few more things with his. If Ryan said 8,000 monthly that you're giving mighty Gabby, and extend to others apart from Edwin what seems like a weekday and a fee. Miss Benky ASAP, we love her dearly. After all, she was born right here. But let her know, so the compromise of standards. But people do these things, mother. Bow down at your feet, mother. I'll sing your praises, drink your Kool-Aid, and eat anything you tell me to eat. And when your friends were cruising the Caribbean Sea, but them don't fight and embarrass me. What if they do and end up getting beat? Tell them at least remain on their feet. You do these things, I'll jump in your choir and sing. And I want you to convince Carol she is not a Motley, but really a Roberts Reaper. And remind her that she is NCFC, not the Minister of Culture. Tell Wilfred Abrams to practice at home how to blow his conch shell. And congratulate people on his achievements because they are serving him well. If you do be saying that, bow down at your feet. I'll sing your praises, drink your Kool-Aid, and eat anything you tell me to eat. And all the talk you just run about transparency shows the differences of air by revealing how many properties you purchased within the last 5 years. You do these things, I'll jump in wherever I'll break down. Yeah. Trouble. Oh Lord, oh Lord. Boy, I wish I was a cat or a bat or a rat or not or some other species so they couldn't restrict me. They say human being is the smartest thing on the earth. But yet when the COVID hit, it's human that had to be worse. Hear them no gathering, social distancing. Try and wear your mask. Stay 6 feet apart. See them birds up in their nest, never had a COVID test. The sheep grazing in the greens, never see a quarantine long. I don't talk about monkey. Monkey take over the country. Out at night, all kinda hours. Like if they name Mr. Agriculture. If reincarnation is a thing, don't make me human again. I wanna be free. All the wild man think that he is king, but animals running things and living happy. Like a bee. Like a bee. Like a bee. Singing country. Like a bee. Boy, I should be a frog or a dog or a hog in a bubble in my feces. Gas price won't bother me. They say that an animal ain't really got too much worth. You think about it, it's them who got all the perks. Check this, these are the facts. Them don't pay no facts, nor share the tax. Just like a diplomat. Straight out never pay mortgage, yet eating out the organ bitch. The blackbird in your fig tree, you could bet he gets them free. And the bigger in the city, them living high and mighty. And when they start feeling hungry, them just go and line up down a queue and see what if reincarnation something will make me human again. I wanna be free. All the wild man think that he is king, but animals running things and living happy. Like a bee. Like a bee. Like a bee. Singing the country. like a beat. Boy, I gotta be a whale or a fish with a tail swimming in the ocean. I won't have water problem. They don't have the headache about being husband or wife. Just do us and please. Yes, them truly live this sweet life. Hear this, no child support. Can't get reports. Never get deported. I'm not a day in court. Look, as blind as you see them bats, never file for income tax. Profit them producing still, never take Viagra pill. Yard flows among we. During COVID, them was busy. Free day bright and early. Keep enough noise to defend Miss Marty. If reincarnation something will make me human again, I wanna be free. All the wild man sing, see is king, but animals running things and living happy. Like coffee, like coffee, like coffee. Hope you're hearing me, like coffee. The talk is red woman. All over the nation, they say red woman is problem. A man in a rum shop said the best one is one that dead would like. Yes, in their head to see what's wrong with red ones. When the beats in the red flag is people jumping. When me a boy is the red flag, people falling. So when they get them, they what has just inherently the gas prices skyrocket. They say, "Oh, some man pick your buckets." They say, "Oh, please, and not check." They say, "Oh, good garbage we can collect." They say, "Oh, see how the street we so, but every beat on London, they're not all, they're not all, they're not all. Like how I woman say they're not all, they're not all, they're not all. Like how I woman. Every location, they got the red woman. From resort to red month, it is the same situation. Just get it one book red, and give it harness like all the baby born in red. All I get it one, and the treasury. So I know it's just a one-minded. Just talk about it with me. Your life still keep going up. They say, all right, my fees are so corrupt. They say, all right, get no major grief. They say, all right, back pay get grief. They say, all right, I want the haters to know. Yeah, wanna so and so. Not so, not so. Like I want, say not so. Conversation. The talk is right woman. The topic gets sanctioned like if they must legislation. I don't get the fixation that causing this confusion is take a reaction for this reflection, but when red big open strengthen your two lips button. What red-handed as to flipping, oh that's just children. A bunch of hypocrites that just waiting.
The custom that open women. You take that you only force. They say, oh, forget each other support.